In today's video, we are going to be learning about volume. So volume measures what fits inside a certain figure. And in these first couple examples, we're looking at cylinders. So you think of like a can of soda or a water bottle or something in a cylinder shape. You're trying to figure out how much is being filled in those cylinders. So to determine the volume of a cylinder, you multiply the area of the base, which is the circle, so the area of the base here, which is pi r squared, multiplied by the height. So it's pi r squared h, where r, this is r, the radius is half of the diameter. So it goes from the center of the circle all the way to the edge of the circle. All right. Now, when we're doing these problems, you're basically just plugging into the formula and just making sure we plug in the right numbers. So in number one, we notice the radius of the circle is 3.5. So when I do this, I'm plugging in 3.5 squared in for my radius. Now notice I put parentheses around that. Same thing I'm going to do with the height. The height is 9, so I'm going to put 9 as the height of the cylinder. All right. Now, when I type this in the calculator here, I'm going to show you on the Desmos calculator, you're going to have to put those parentheses in. So we have pi parentheses 3.5 squared and then multiplied by 9. And you get 346.3. I'm going to round this to the nearest tenth. So I'm going to say it's 346.4. I'm going to say it's about. So this is about 346.4 inches cubed. But when I type in the GoFormative, you can just type in this number right here, 346.4. We're going to round our numbers to the nearest tenth in this lesson. Okay, let's take a look at the next one. All right, this one, it gives us the diameter. So when it gives the diameter, we need to find the radius. The radius is half the diameter, so half of 4.8 is 2.4. That's my radius. So when I plug that in my formula, it's going to be pi times 2.4 squared times the height, which is 36. Get my calculator. Pi parentheses 2.4 squared times, what was it, 36? 36. And you get 651.4 when I round that. Millimeters cubed. But just type this number in GoFormative. So that's how you would find the volume of a cylinder. Now, a cone is very similar to a cylinder, but you notice when you make a cone from a cylinder, it cuts it into how many parts? 1, 2, 3 parts. 1, 2, 3 parts. If you notice the cone size, the cone volume is divided up by the cylinder volume by dividing by 3. 180 divided by 3 is 60. 192 divided by 3 is 64. So when we come up with our cone formula, we would have to, again, divide it by 3. Or you could just do pi r squared h, all divided by 3. Or another way to write that is 1/3 pi r squared h. I'm going to be using this formula when I put in my calculator. It just looks neater. okay? So in the first one, we have, okay, we don't know the radius, right? We know the diameter is 6, the radius is 3. So when I plug that in my formula, it's 1/3 pi times 3 squared. And then the height is 15. So I'm going to put in the 15 in parentheses also. Back to my scientific calculator. 1/3. Make sure you go over pi parentheses. What was it? 3. Yep, 3. 3 and 15. So 3 squared. Oops, it was not inside the parentheses. 3 squared, and then outside the parentheses, another one, 15. And you get 141.4. I want about, not equals. Again, I put these squiggly lines because it's not exactly equal to 141.4 centimeters cubed. Okay, so it's pretty simple, just plugging in the right numbers in the calculator, making sure you use parentheses and rounding correctly. All right, let's look at, a sphere. So this is the formula for a sphere. And again, be careful with these because you have, this one, they give us the radius, all right? So we have 4/3 pi what is it, r cubed? So it's 6 cubed. So let's put that in the calculator. 4/3 pi r, which was what? 6 cubed. 6. Oops. No. Do it again. 4/3 pi 6 cubed. 904.8. 904.8 inches cubed. Now we look at these semispheres here. What do you notice between the difference between this and this? Well, if you cut this sphere in half, that's what you would have to do, right? So you would have to basically take half of this. If I just wanted the bottom portion of this, the bottom half of this, all I would do would take this number and divide it by 2. So you would take your pi r squared, or 4/3 pi r cubed. You would take that number and then divide it by 2 at the end in order to get this answer. All right, so you would just take your answer, divide it by 2. All right, so a lot of, again, is just plugging into the calculator and making sure you put your parentheses in and make sure we round to the nearest tenth when we plug in our answers, okay? So work on these problems. If you have questions, feel free to reach out. Thank you for watching.